Welcome back to the podcast, guys. Today I have a special guest, Oliver Bruce, the founder and CEO of Pinpoint Media, one of UK's most recognized performance creative agency. Now, Ollie founded the business at 19 while still at university and has built it into a 40-person shop with clients like BAE Systems, Barrett, Ticketmaster, and the list goes on. Welcome to the podcast, Ollie. Why don't you sort of tell us a little bit about you and what you guys do at Pinpoint Media?
Yeah, 100%. Nice to be here, Jordan. Thanks for having me. So I guess Pinpoint Media fundamentally is a business, is an agency that does search, social, and creative. So paid search, paid social, and creative. We wrap a bit of organic into that, but really only if it's complementary to the full suite, if you will. We scaled it over the last 10 years or so, and then exited to Pretty Green Group in December 2025, so December just gone. So, they are an experiential influencer and PR agency. We're a search, social, and creative agency, so there's a really nice synergy there. So there's 100 plus in terms of headcount, I guess, now. So really exciting just to be on this new journey with a new agency, with a kind of, new lease of life, if you will.
Yeah. And you, so like I said, you started Pinpoint at 19 while still at university. Most 19-year-olds are figuring out their timetable or wondering where they should go and have a cheeky beverage. Like, what made you think I'm going to build a production company and build it into this thing and exit it?
Yeah, I guess so. It wasn't necessarily a plan to build a production company or to even exit at all. It was just to want to be a presenter. That's the honest truth. So if I dial it back a little bit and you look at TV presenters, both back in the day, but, to a certain extent now as well. So look at Rowan Atkinson, Ross Kemp, Jeremy Clarkson, all these individuals, Gordon Ramsay, they've got their own production company, right? So they can produce the content themselves, and I thought distribute the content themselves. So I kind of thought it was a quick win, for me to go in with a production company, produce content, and thus become a presenter. Ever so slightly different to that. They had to start in a very different way. They obviously, eventually became a presenter and eventually had a production company. I thought it was a quick hack. It wasn't. So that was kind of the reality of why it started, no more so than just wanting to be on television, wanting to be a presenter, which actually in reality, I'm pleased I never went down the path of. We then span it off into something actually totally different to a production company. We built an app that was specifically for businesses across the UK, specifically franchisable. So in different counties, we were going to have essentially different businesses that went on with good discounts, good places to go, a video on there, for instance, to be able to market them. And then users, individuals, university students, whatever it might be, would go on there and essentially find the best place to go for the best price, if that makes sense, be it a night out, be it a taxi company, whatever it might have been. And we quickly realized that actually, whilst businesses were paying us to use the app, and it was like £100 a month for them to feature on there, they weren't actually getting any visits, but they were getting video content produced for that price. So the reality is we then stopped the app, focused on video again, and that was when this company started to kind of grow and hyper-focus in terms of content marketing. We realized that people were paying us to have video, not to feature on the app. We realized there was a market to basically sell video content very cheaply, stack it very, very high, and make margin in that sense. A bit like that kind of critical mass model that you might see with Lidl. I always liken it to Lidl. Short tills, quick throughput, good margin, whereas Waitrose is more expensive, slightly slower. So that was the kind of business model, and it kind of grew from there, and graduated university with 2 staff and an office. So it was kind of an accident, if I'm honest, Jordan, but it sort of worked out in the end.
Awesome story. Makes a lot of sense. And so I see that you acquired Nova Plus, right? So a D2C paid media and UGC shop. So that's a big move. What was the thesis behind buying that instead of building, and what did you learn in the first 12 months of integrating another team into Pinpoint?
Yeah, so we bought Nova Plus, I guess it was about 3, nearly 4 years ago. And they brought into the agency things that we didn't necessarily do. So we had a really strong production footing. We had our own studio, we had our own producers, creatives, etc. And we were doing a lot of content for a lot of businesses. But what we weren't doing so well was the actual deployment of the creative. So essentially the end-to-end. We could come up with the concept, we could come up with the strategy, we could come up with the content, we could produce it, but we never managed to execute on the actual distribution. So we brought in this very, very small kind of micro business. There was only, I think, 10 staff in that organization to essentially build out a department in the performance world. So it was essentially buying a bunch of performance individuals to build out that performance offering, which then allowed us to kind of offer to our clients the end-to-end service. So the search, social, and creative rather than just the creative. And that allowed us to become a little more sticky. sticky. So when we started to scale after that point, our retainers were sort of 75% of total revenue. We managed to get it to an exit because of that, because we were sticky to clients. Fascinating process. Integrating any business into any organization is super difficult, and we did make mistakes on that integration with Nova, things that we learned from, and now integrating into Pretty Green, it's a lot more streamlined, a lot more smooth. Arguably, it's a bigger business, so there's a lot more people that can help with that.
Mm.
But I guess rule 101 is don't rush these things. Yes, it might feel right at the time, but actually put a plan in place, put a 100-day plan in place to make sure that actually you don't just bang everything together overnight and go, it'll be fine. Do it methodically, do it slowly, and make sure you bring people on the journey.
Wow. Okay. And so like segueing then into the Pretty Green
Mm,
acquisition, many people who are listening are going to see that as sort of their end goal, right? Their life's purpose. So walk me through, what was that like to have that close and to sort of achieve something at such a young age that many people spend 50 years doing and never
yeah.
achieve? Like what did that feel like? Walk us through that.
So I guess it takes a long time to get to an acquisition, right? And in
Mm,
reality, it's very rare to get there. And I think when you're starting a business, you need to understand, do you want to sell it or do you want it to be a lifestyle business? Because there's two very different ways of running your organization if you want it to be a lifestyle business versus if you want to sell it. It was always my plan to get it to a point where we could put it into a bigger organization and then do bigger and better work, which is what happened. But it was ruthless. So we spent 2 years, give or take, setting it up for sale. When we knew we wanted to go towards the exit, we had to go through so much due diligence. There was 8, 9 months worth of prodding and poking. It was, very much like they were looking at everything you'd built and gone, yeah, that's fine, but what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? It's pretty intense. It's an amazing journey, but it's properly intense. And then it gets to the point, like every deal gets to, where it's going to complete on, I think ours was the 22nd, 23rd of December last year. And we knew that date. That was the date that we were planning on completing. But still, the day before, they were people rushing around going, we need to do this, we need to do that. And it went right up to the wire. It was sort of 2 a.m. in the morning before it actually completed. And that's the insane thing, is you plan it for so long, but it takes that level of time to get it to a point where actually everybody's happy. And still, at the final minute, you're still running around doing paperwork, signing things. It's insane. It's carnage and knackering. But when it does happen, it's a bit of a breath of fresh air. You kind of go, great, that's done, but nothing really changes. And it doesn't feel like anything has changed. It's just a new day. It's just a slightly different process. And then you go, well, actually, that was a lot of work. What's the upside? Yeah, fine. There might be some money, there might be some capital. That is an upside for some people, but very little actually changes. You've just got a
mm.
slightly different way of working, a slightly different day tomorrow. You still get up at the same time, you still do the same stuff. So I guess it's maybe a journey that you need to go on, but you need to be prepared for. It's not a journey that necessarily is easy at all. It's ruthless, but it is very, very rewarding if you can get there.
Yes. So I spoke to a founder who exited for a lot of money, and it was slightly different, where the company that purchased his brand took the brand and shelved it because they were a competitor. So everything stopped. It sounds
Yeah.
like you are continuing and you are
Uh,
growing, which is a unique place to be. And so, like, I guess what is next for you and Pinpoint with this
yeah.
acquisition now?
So the reality of it is we are still two separate brands, but under a group. So there's Pinpoint Media and then there's Pretty Green. There's naturally plans over time to bring the teams together more cohesively, something we've been working over the last 3 months to do. In terms of the way that we work with clients, they just fundamentally don't offer what we offer. So all their clients they work with, brands like Audible, brands like Bupa, for instance, brands like Hadspro, we are able to plug into and to do services that maybe they weren't able to unlock before, for instance, or if they were unlocking them, they were going out to freelancers. So there's a commercial upside for both us, there's a commercial upside for the acquirer, and indeed, there's a level of efficiency for the brands that they're working with. Deals can work for everybody. Deals do feel like they're slightly, no one's really happy when they complete because everyone's kind of had to kind of pull back on certain things that they wanted. But in reality, if it feels uncomfortable for everybody, it's probably the right deal because nobody's actually had one up, if that makes sense. But for us as an organization, it has been the best thing we've ever done. The guys are super stoked. It's just a brilliant culture. The team are amazing. And, being able to unlock brands that we as an agency could have only dreamed of working with has just been super exciting.
Awesome. And so I want to ask about AI, Oliver. So you're doing some interesting stuff with AI, right? Core AI, that's the stack.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that and where you see AI going over the next 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I went on a podcast like 2 years ago, give or take, and it's just incredible to see how fast AI has moved and the predictions we made then versus where it is now. So to your
Mm.
point about 12 months, for me, it's agentic. So it's very much things being able to operate autonomously. So that might be as simple as running your inbox. It might be producing content, running performance campaigns. Frankly, it could be just analysis of data and communication with clients. That kind of thing, building out agents that run things that individuals in organizations don't want to do, I think is where essentially AI is going to be going. There are tons of new platforms emerging every day. It's where to bet, and there is no right or wrong place to bet at the moment. There's Manus, which is essentially an agentic agent. There is obviously OpenClaw, there's Claude Code, there's Perplexity. There's tons of different things that you can plug in together to make things work for you. It's just to what level do you want to spend the time looking into it because it's moving at such a rate of knots? And I think at the
Mhm.
moment, it's whoever's shouting loudest seems to be winning. With Anthropic overtaking OpenAI, for instance, in terms of spend and revenue, it's insane just to see how these things are changing at a rate of knots. Where last year you'd have gone, ChatGPT is the place to be. Actually, now everyone's going over to Claude, right? OpenClaw that started or that launched, a couple of months ago, everyone's kind of going, that's the best thing. But actually, in reality, is it going to be the best thing in 6 months? So the only prediction that I can give you right now is that agentic is the future and autonomy is the future. What that looks like in terms of which platform to use, I wouldn't necessarily want to rest my kind of my name to just yet.
Fair enough. All right. Well, so with Pretty Green now integrated with some of the core AI stuff scaling, what do you think is the single biggest constraint that you're wrestling with at Pinpoint right now? If you could magically solve one thing, what would it be?
It's the magpie effect. So we're developing. We've got a really strong tech stack with our GEO search, Fame Insight engine, and then we've also got this video analysis tool that can kind of understand and gauge what is going to work well in the market from a hook perspective
Yeah.
and a virality point of view. So, we are looking to develop stuff. We're, looking to build new things out. And I think the one thing that we'd like to fix as quick as possible is knowing where to put our chips essentially. So it's that magpie effect as I alluded to. So there's lots of shiny things out there, but where do
Mm.
we focus our attention? Where do we look? What do we do? If someone could wave a magic wand and go, this is where you need to focus, that would be brilliant, frankly. That would be a really nice problem to solve because there is just so much noise out there. Making sure that you're actually spending your time as efficiently and effectively as possible on the right things, I think is key.
If you had to guess, what do you think the number one constraint of maybe your business or most businesses are? Because I don't know if you've read the book, The Theory of Constraints is very interesting. And like you say, I've never heard actually magpie theory, but I love, or would you call it the magpie
The magpie effect.
effect? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't heard that before, but it makes a lot of sense. In New Zealand, we have magpies and and they go and
Yeah,
they love
okay.
shiny things and they pick things off of cars. And so, yeah, very similar.
Yeah, exactly that.
If you had to give some advice to people who are watching this, what do you think the number one problem that they should be solving in their business is? Obviously, it has to just kind of be generic, but from your point of view.
Yeah. The number one problem, I guess, is automation. So how can you automate and streamline individuals' roles so that they can do things better with the resource that they've currently got? We've all got the same amount of time. That is never going to change, right? We can't magic additional hours out of the day, but we
Mm,
can essentially drive more value from the hours that we've got. And the way that driving more value from the hours that we got is going to be through automation and through those agentic agents that so many businesses are starting to build. So, even if that is putting a couple of hours in the morning or a couple of hours in the evening just to research what an agentic agent is, what you could streamline. And when I was sort of exploring this, I was just trying to solve simple problems in the day, such as, let's just automate my diary, get an email and a WhatsApp over every morning saying what's going on today and what's going on tomorrow. And then if there's any clashes that need to be moved, for instance. And yes, I can look at my diary and that's fine, but I can also
mhm.
get that automated and then check if that automation is working, right? So starting super simple is really key and then extrapolating that out and becoming a little bit more complex. So one of the first things I think people will be constrained by is time, right? And people being
Mhm.
able to alleviate that, being able to do more with less, for instance, being able to frankly go and play golf because your agents are doing work for you is that North Star that so many businesses are wanting to get to.
Yes, definitely. Okay, I love that advice. And so, how are currently clients coming to Pinpoint? Is it referral? Are you running your own ads? Like, what does that look like? A
Yeah,
mixture of
so we've got
everything.
Yeah, it's a mixture of everything. It really is. So we've got sort of, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, but we do different paid activity throughout. So we do have
Hmm.
awareness campaigns, we do have consideration campaigns that we'll put budget behind properly. We'll jump on podcasts, we'll send out mailers, we'll do webinars, we'll run events. There is a lot of recommendation that comes through, which is nice. We have a scorecard, for instance, when working with brands, etc., to make sure that we are targeting and working with and pitching to the correct organizations rather than taking everything that comes in just because we know where we can add value. So we've really niched down in terms of sector there. But in terms of lead gen for ourselves, it's not like we have a huge sales team. I think we've got 6 or 7 that work from a BD perspective, generating
Hmm.
new business, plus myself. So, they aren't hammering the phones. It's not like Wolf of Wall Street. It is elegant, but we are doing quite a lot of our own paid social and paid search, as well as a lot of organic.
Okay, I love that. Yeah, there's no sort of silver bullet when it comes to marketing. It's like all marketing needs to be done, I find almost always. So,
Yeah, one of our quickest unlocks of late was hyper focusing into GEO, so generative engine optimization, and we managed to get quite nice leads off just individuals searching through LLMs. So, best TikTok agency in London, for instance, or whatever the term is that they typed in. We came up and we had a really nice inquiry from a very nice brand just through organically finding us through ChatGPT. So there's some really easy and quick wins for organizations and businesses to start doing, of which that is building out really personal, authentic content regularly and making sure that you distribute that on your website, within an 8 to 12 week kind of cadence, because these LLMs, these GPTs are basically need content. They need to be farmed and they like to go for relevant stuff that is current and new rather than old stuff that you've written a year, 2, 3, 4, so making sure that you're doing it as quickly and as relatively as relevantly as possible is super important.
yeah, fantastic advice. And so, last question, Ollie. If you could go back and you could sit down with 19-year-old Ollie on day one of Pinpoint, what's one thing that you might tell him now that you have the gift of hindsight?
Now that I've got the gift of hindsight, focus and in the end to end as quickly as possible, or on the end to end as quickly as possible. So rather than just being the middle of a solution, i.e., the media side of things, the production of the content, focus on how we can ideate, create, and deliver. And when we started, there was, 15, well, no, it wasn't, it was 12, 13 years ago. So the world was different. But I wish that we'd focused on or picked up sooner that end to end full service sort of mentality.
Okay, I like that. Well, I appreciate you coming on today and sharing some of those insights. It's not every day that we have a founder who's already participated in an exit, let alone somebody that's as young as you are. So fantastic to see that. If people are listening and maybe they want to connect with you or check out some of the stuff at Pinpoint, where can they go? How can they connect?
Yeah, 100%. So, go over to my LinkedIn. It's Oliver Bruce Online, I think it is. If you type that in, you might find it. Got a website, oliverbruce.co.uk, or the company brand page, which is pinpoint-media .global. Go and check that out. And yeah, always happy to help and just catch up if anyone wants to ping me a note.
Perfect. I'll leave links in the description. But thank you again, Oliver. And thank you guys very much for watching. We will see you in the next episode.
Thanks, Jordan.